بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألف لام ميم ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون صدق الله العظيم وقد صدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك لمن الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As we know, respected brothers and sisters, as Muslims, we understand that everything that an individual has in this life, we only have it temporarily. We're only using what we have in the sense that we're borrowing it. And the ultimate owner of all things, the sovereign who complete ownership of the entire universe, the heavens and the earth, ourselves, our lives, our bodies, our children, and what we're covering tonight, our wealth. This all belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Islam teaches us that the way we live our lives, it's not at our discretion. It is not at our own decision. It's not at what we believe to be good. It's not what we believe to be decent. Everything that we do in this life, it is according to the dictates, according to the commands that Allah and His Rasul have sent to us. So part of this, brothers and sisters, is how we earn. This is not up to us. That however I want to make money, however I wish to earn a livelihood, I can choose whatever pathway that I want. I could choose whatever career that I wish. I can deal how I want. I could be honest, I could be dishonest. This mentality, brothers and sisters, is contradictory to the way of Islam. Islam teaches us, you live, you breathe, you eat, you earn. Everything is in a very, very precise way. How Allah wants us to deal. How Allah wants us to be. Right? So we have needs, we have responsibilities, we have necessities. But even those necessities, it seems like we're fulfilling it on our own accord. It's not on our own accord. It's according to the dictates how Allah wants it to be. We have a need to nourish our bodies. We have a need to eat food. We have a need to drink. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't leave it to us that nourish yourselves how you wish. No. You will earn, you will eat according to the rules of halal. You will earn and you will eat and you will feed your families according to my laws, my rules, and my regulations. So brothers and sisters, we understand from what has been mentioned that when it comes to our wealth, the wealth is not ours to begin with. We're using this wealth, we're responsible for it, and we're temporary owners to discharge it the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to discharge it. And this is why in Surah Al-Baqarah, in the opening verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about the believers, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. From that which we have given them, They spend their wealth. They spend from what? Allah didn't say from their wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say from their hard earnings, from what they own. No, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says from that which we sustain them with. So what does it tell us? That what we are giving, it's actually not ours to begin with. And subhanallah, when you look at zakat, zakat is 2.5%, right? That's a very small amount compared to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is letting you keep, right? And subhanallah, the system of this world is that Allah has put certain individuals in the trial of wealth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put others in the trial of poverty. And what is a successful society? That the people who are tested with the trial of wealth, they assist and they give their wealth, they pass their test by being in assistance to those who have been afflicted with the trial of poverty. This is a successful society. And subhanallah, if Muslims gave their zakat, this 2.5%, which seems like it's not that much, but if Muslims gave their zakat, a huge percentage of the poverty, the difficulties that we see around the world, all of that would be alleviated. All of that would be eliminated if Muslims actually gave their zakat. What does zakat do, brothers and sisters? Zakat, it eliminates and it eradicates that selfishness that a human being has. What is the selfishness of a human being? You always want more. You always want, even if you're sufficient, even if your wealth, it's more than enough. The hirs and the desire of a human, it always urges you and it itches you and it tells you more, more, more. Why did I lose this much? Right? As much as you lose, it itches you, it hurts you. You feel like not to spend. You feel like not giving the next dollar. This selfishness, brothers and sisters, the Prophet ﷺ, he spoke about it. And what did he say? That every day the angels, they make the announcement. Allahumma a'ti munfiqan khalafa wa a'ti mumsikan talafa. Or kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. That the one who sticks to their wealth, they don't want to give it. They're thinking twice about it. Whether it's helping someone or whether it's even for their own individual needs. They're concerned, they're worried. Oh man, I got to spend money on rice. I got to spend money to feed the kids, right? And they're counting and they're concerned. And many times, even though they have more than enough, right? More than enough, they're sufficient, they're self-sufficient, they're at ease. But what is the issue that makes people worried? الشيطان يعدكم الفقر وَيَأْمُرُكُمْ بِالْفَحْشَةِ. This is the problem, is that the shaitan, he promises you poverty. The shaitan promises you, you're going to be poor. You're going to lose out. If you pay $5 for this and $10 for this, and you help this needy person, and you contribute towards this cause, you're going to end up poor. You're going to lose your wealth. You're not going to be at that amount of money that you wish to have. You're going to be in the negative. You're going to lose out if you give. And subhanallah, a person is self-sufficient, but they have this worry, right? And so many people that I've talked to personally, what are their worries? What are their concerns? What's putting them into anxiety? What's putting them into depression? It's not actual problems that they have. It's all problems that they're preconceiving in their minds. They're thinking about 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from now. Man, what's my bank balance going to look like? Am I going to survive? The economy is like this, the economy is like that. Yes, of course, there's struggles in earning. Yes, of course, there's struggles with finance. But what does the deen teach us? Whatever you're going to earn, that's already been determined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we were in the wombs of our mothers, right? 4 months in, Allah commands the angels to blow the spirit, and everything is determined. When you will die, where you will die, how much you will earn, what you're going to eat, all of that has already been determined. When? When we're in the wombs. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised, If there's one morsel, if there's $1 that is written in your taqdeer, you're not going to die until you consume that morsel, until that dollar comes into your possession. Right? That's all been predetermined. So what happens to us human beings? We start thinking so much into the future. And 1,000 what ifs, 1,000,000 what ifs. How many of those what ifs are actually probable? Not much, not many of them. How many of those what ifs you're actually facing? None of them. But what does the shaitan do? He loves to put that anxiety inside of us. 50 years later, brother, first become 50 years old. Right? First become 50, then let's talk. How do you know you're going to even live till 50? You don't know how long you're going to live in this dunya. And already you're thinking 50 years ahead. Oh my God. You know, the person's 20 years old. MashaAllah. Beautiful black hair. No wrinkles. And what's going on in their mind? I'm going to be 90. And I'm going to have my cane and hunchback. And I'm going to have 15 grandkids to look after. How am I going to do it? Where did all these thoughts come from? Where are you going to be a hunchback and have, a cane in your hand? Where'd you get these thoughts? They're all thoughts that come from the shaitan to put you through anxiety. What does Allah promise us? What does Allah tell us to do? Put your trust in Him. أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِكَافٍ عَبْدًا? Is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not sufficient for His servant? Of course Allah is sufficient. Of course Allah will look after your needs. So this is the battle that a human being has to go through. Are you going to listen to the promise of the shaitan? Or will you listen to the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Shaitan is saying, you're going to be needy, brother. You're going to be needy, my sister. You're going to be in poverty one day. You're going to be in trouble. Be careful for donating to the masjid. $25. Oh my God, that's so much money. Be careful. Zakat, 2.5%. Oh my God, the guy's pulling his hair out. Relax. Don't listen to the promises and the threats of the shaitan. Listen to the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? The sadaqah, the zakat, the charity, the good things that you spend, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala multiplies it for you. You may not see it with your eyes. In your numbers, it looks like you're less. But in the books of Allah, you have exponentially gained. That's what you actually gained, is what you give. What you actually keep, that's not actually yours. Because one day you will die and it's going to go in inheritance. What you spend for the sake of Allah, that is sealed in your books of good deeds. That's actually your wealth. That which you've sent to the akhirah. What you keep, that's not actually your wealth to begin with. So these angels, as I was mentioning, they make this dua that, oh Allah, whoever spends, Ya Allah, you grant them something in return. Right? And we know the system of Allah. When He grants you something in return, what you have given for Him, He doesn't give you something that's lower. He doesn't give you something that's equal. What you give for Allah, Allah always gives you better in return. Right? This is Arhamur Rahimin that we're talking about. You know, some human beings, they have this noble character. If somebody gives them a gift, they're going to give them a better gift. If somebody helps them, if somebody does some good, some ihsan, they're going to reciprocate that ihsan in an even better way. If human beings have this nobility, what do you think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? When you give for His pleasure and for His sake, He multiplies it and He brings khair, He brings barakah. Right? إِنَّ الصَّدَقَةَ لَتُطْفِئُ غَضَبَ الرَّبِّ. That sadaqah, what does it do? وَإِنَّهَا لَتَدْفَعُ مِيتَةَ السُّوءِ أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. That sadaqah and charity which you give, what does it do? It cools the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other words, it protects you from punishments. It protects you from calamities. It protects you from difficulties that are happening. And لَتَدْفَعُ مِيتَةَ السُّوءِ. It prevents an evil death. So, Allahu Akbar, we see in the history of Islam, when people were going through difficulties, what would people do? They would resort to reading Quran, making dua, doing all righteous actions. And one of the most important things, spend, give. Because when you give, It blocks calamities from coming your way. It brings khair, it brings barakah. Right? So this should be, zakat shouldn't just be for the month of Ramadan. Zakat and giving shouldn't just be, the whole year we're holding our pockets, the wallets are closed, and then when Ramadan comes, we just go all out and we go crazy. That's not the way it should be. Every month, every week, if you can, daily, put something in your sadaqah jar. Make a little jar, give sadaqah. Sign up for charitable causes where punctually your wealth is going for the sake of Allah to bring in barakah and to repel any calamities and difficulties and punishments that may be headed your way. So, brothers and sisters, we understand zakat and sadaqah, this system of charity, it's a system of unity, a system of brotherhood, a system of sisterhood, looking out for one another. Right? The best of times is when. The best of Islamic history was when. When the poor people, they didn't even need to expose their poverty. They didn't need to go in a line. They didn't need to submit their names. They didn't need to expose themselves on camera and ask. What was the best of times, khairul qurun? It was those times where the wealthy people, they were in pursuit. They were searching, they were chasing, they were looking. Where is there a brother or sister who is in need? So that through service to them, I can get the pleasure of my Creator. Through taking care of them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be pleased with me. This is how the true system of Islam should be. With dignity, with honor, with respect. You fulfill the needs of brothers and sisters and you don't make mention about it after. Right? This is the usul, the principle which we should live by. That whatever good you do to somebody else, you should do it and you should forget about it. Whatever good that you do to somebody, you do it and immediately what should you do? You guys with me? Forget about it. What does that mean? Now the next time you see that person in the masjid, or the next time you hear that person's name, that's the guy. Man, I did a lot of ihsan on that guy. $1,000 last Ramadan. Yeah, I remember. Where is this guy? Come, kiss my hand. Right? Come. How come you haven't been messaging me? How come you haven't been checking up on me? Has he forgot that $1,000 that I gave? Has he forgot when, he was in need and I came and helped him out? No, that's not the way of a Muslim. What good you do, you forget about it. And what good is done to you, you never forget that. You always remember that. What good is done to you, you always remember the people who did ihsan on you. You reciprocate that khair. You remember them for the good that they have done. Right? Some people, what happens? Someone does good, and what happens? You forget about that person. Right? Thank you. Money's in the pocket. Goodbye. Nothing ever happened. Forget about you. Right? So Islam teaches us, when you're the one who does good, do not make ihsan. Do not boast. Do not remind a person. That's the worst thing that you could do, is to remind them. And is to show that they owe you something back. Right? The best of people who give, they give with their right hand, the left hand doesn't even know what they've given. Completely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not expecting anything. لا نريد منكم جزاء ولا شكورا. We don't want from you any retribution. We don't want from you anything back in return. We don't even want you to thank us. What we have done and what we have given, it's solely for the sake of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. The incident comes to mind with Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala an, where he had this habit, a certain person who was needy. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala an, he would continuously give this person wealth. And then they got into a certain dispute. And that particular person, he made a very bad rumor regarding the daughter of Abu Bakr Siddiq, our mother Aisha radiyallahu ta'ala anha. A very, very bad allegation against her. And when Abu Bakr Siddiq, this is known as the waqi'atul ifk, when Abu Bakr Siddiq radiyallahu anhu, he heard about this and he came to know the person who's spreading these evil, outrageous rumors, it is this guy that I've been giving charity to, I've been supporting him, I've been helping him, and this is his response? This is the way he reciprocates the favor? By spreading rumors about my own daughter? So Abu Bakr Siddiq, he took an oath, he said, that's it. Wallahi, I'm not going to help this guy again. I'm not going to give this guy any money. And subhanallah, ayat of the Quran were revealed. وَلَا يَأْتَلِ أُولُو الْفَضْلِ مِنْكُمْ وَالسَّعَةِ أَنْ يُؤْتُوا أُولِي الْقُرْبَى إِلَى آخِرِ الْآيَةِ. The gist of it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed these ayat, basically saying, the people of virtue and nobility, like Abu Bakr Siddiq, they should not stop their contributions and the khair and the goodness which they give people. Allahu Akbar. So it's not about what that person is giving you in return. It's not about what status you will receive in the community if you give. Your giving is solely for the sake of Allah. It's between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's such a business, brothers and sisters, that yields you nothing but profits. It gives you nothing but goodness in this dunya and in the next. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all tawfiq to be charitable, to be, instead of selfish, we be selfless. Always looking, not for ourselves, but looking out for other people. So inshallah, we're going to start with the workshop. This is a workshop that was put together by siblings of ilm. I believe they're based out of the UK. So these were made by Sheikh Hilal Patel. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him and his entire team for making these beautiful slides. What is zakat? What's the meaning of zakat? Zakat literally means to purify. So when a person's wealth is stagnant, just like a well, you keep it for many, many years, the water is not flowing, right? What's going to happen? You leave a book on the table for many, many years. What happens? It starts collecting dust, right? So with zakat, you're actually purifying your wealth. You're getting that dust off of your wealth, right? You're basically allowing that well, you're allowing the water to remain pure. Your wealth is going to stay with barakah when you give, right? You know, like some people, your hair gets dirty, your hair gets lice, or your hair is not growing, they recommend you shave your head, right? And then what happens? Your hair starts growing nice, hair starts growing thick. So to enjoy the nice, beautiful, thick hair, what do you have to do first? You got to give some hair, right? So if you want barakah in your wealth, you want your wealth to flow, you got to be willing to give some of it out as well. So zakat means to purify. Another one of the meanings of zakat is to multiply. And who doesn't like multiplication, right? Number two, of course we know zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It's a very core part of our deen. In the Sharia, it refers to the annual duty of a Muslim who possesses the zakat threshold. What is the zakat threshold? It is called nisab. We're going to get more into details of the nisab. What they must do? Pay 2.5% of certain types of wealth. Not all types of wealth, but specifically certain types of wealth. It has also been interpreted as a means to purify one's wealth by distributing a prescribed amount to the poor as a fundamental ibadah, as a fundamental worship. So some of the details of the importance of zakat, they're mentioned here. We covered some of them, so I'm not going to read it word for word. And whatever zakat you give, seeking Allah's pleasure with it, it is multiplied by Allah, and it is such people who multiply their wealth in real terms. So again, people think if you give, you lose. But in Islam, and according to the Quranic teachings, what you give for the sake of Allah, that's actually what you're investing and multiplying. Zakah is an act of worship and it's not a punishment. 2.5% of my wealth I have to give. People think, oh man, this is like a punishment. I have to give something for Allah. This is not a punishment. This is a great virtue. There is khair in it, in this world and in the next. One should look forward to paying zakat, as it will be a means of purification, blessing, and great reward. Give your zakat with a smile. Don't give your zakat with a frown. Man, I have to give this money of mine. No, it's a blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be able to purify ourselves. When a difference of opinion occurs, the more cautious approach should be taken into consideration to ensure that the duty of zakat is fulfilled with certainty. And the principle is that which is most beneficial for the poor will be applied when working with zakat. Lots of admonition has been mentioned in the hadith for those who do not pay zakat. This one is made mention of whoever is made wealthy by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and does not pay zakat on their wealth. On the day of Qiyamah, their wealth will be made like a bald-headed, poisonous male snake with 2 black spots over the eyes. The snake will encircle the person's neck and bite his cheeks. And what will the snake say? I am your wealth, I am your treasure. And the snake will punish the person. Upon whom is zakat obligatory? Who has to give zakat? So here we see 4 requirements for zakat to be obligatory. Number 1, the person should be sane. Number 2, they should be an adult. So zakat is not necessary on children's wealth. An adult is one who has reached puberty. So some people might think adult, okay, so zakat starts at age 18. No, in Islam, you're an adult when you reach bulugh, when you reach adolescence and you reach puberty. This whole concept of being an adult at the age of 18, this is actually something of recent times. Historically, if you look, there was no such thing called a teenager. There's actually studies done on this. There was no such thing as teenager, that he's like half adult but half child still. So he's in his teens, he's kind of a kid, right? But he's an adult because he's reached puberty. No, in ancient times, until actually quite recently, there was no such thing as teenager. Once you've reached puberty, you're a man, you're a woman. So even like the schooling system, the educational system, there would be 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds. They're together with 25-year-olds. And they wouldn't look at this like, oh, that's a big guy and I'm a little guy. No, we're equal. The same way that guy is in class, I'm in class. The same way that guy is earning, that's the same way I'm earning. Right? So Islamically, an adult is considered from bulugh. Number 3, the person should be Muslim. So if a person is a revert, zakat is only due after embracing Islam. They don't need to calculate zakat for the previous years before they accepted Islam. And fourthly, the person should reach what is called nisab. Nisab means the threshold. You have to own a particular amount of wealth. And more details of the nisab is coming ahead. What is meant by nisab? The amount of wealth which makes one liable for zakat is called nisab. There are 2 types of nisab, either gold or silver. So when you're calculating from gold, it's 87.4 grams, and silver would be 612.36 grams of gold. So currently, if you calculate this in dollars, it's approximately, the gold nisab is approximately $5,800, and the silver nisab is approximately $465. So which one of these should we take? $465, or should we take $5,800 to be the nisab? So here's the thing. If you take the silver nisab, it's about $500, $460. So we know that living conditions in our day and age, if a person owns in excess of $500, he's not going to be able to do much with that, right? One thing breaks in the car, you could end up paying even more than that, right? So the ulama of today's time have mentioned and have given this verdict: if a person takes the gold nisab, there's no problem with that. It's completely fine. So, in other words, if you own approximately $5,800, then you will give zakat. If you own less than this amount, you don't have to give zakat. You're not liable to pay zakat. Sure, if you have the means, right, you're reaching the silver nisab, right, and you want to give zakat, it's not difficult for you, it's not going to put you in serious financial constraint, you can give it, no problem, and that would be more beneficial for the poor. But we understand, for some people, if you only own in excess of $500, a person might say, hey, instead of giving zakat, maybe I should receive zakat, right? $500 is not a lot of money. So therefore, like I mentioned, to take the gold nisab is completely fine, which is $5,800 that a person has in savings. Zakat anniversary. Most people, they're looking forward to the wedding anniversary, right? There's many kinds of anniversaries. There's also zakat anniversary. This is also something we should be looking forward to. What is zakat anniversary? The zakat anniversary is the date, the first time nisab is reached. So the first time in your life that you owned $5,800. That's your zakat date. Okay? And every year, you're going to give zakat on that exact date. And this would be calculated based on the lunar calendar. So if you don't know what that date is, you would have to do some estimation, you would have to do some backtracking. You can check online to kind of correspond the English date with the Hijri date to figure out your zakat anniversary. You would just have to do your best guess. If you cannot figure it out, you can appoint a date and then keep that as your zakat anniversary if you cannot backtrack. So the wealth must reach the nisab at the start and end of each Islamic year. Any increase or decrease that takes place during the year does not matter as long as the zakatable assets do not reach zero. If wealth reaches zero, the anniversary will reset. So take a look here at this chart. The red line is the nisab. In our case, let's say $5,800. That's the nisab. Right here at the start, that was the first time that this person became the owner of nisab. And it happened to be Ramadan. Let's say 15th of Ramadan. That was the first time the person owned this amount of wealth, of course, in excess of their basic needs and necessities. So 15th of Ramadan, right here, he owned the wealth. Let's say it was $5,000. Let's say it was $6,000. So now you can see in the middle of the year, oh, he lost some money right there. Now he dipped even below the nisab, right? In the middle of the year, he dipped below nisab. Then it went up. Then it went down. By the time 15th Ramadan of the following year came, he was at this amount, right? Which was over what he initially had. How much will he pay zakat on? This amount which he has at the zakat anniversary. The 15th of Ramadan on the following year, however much he has in excess in his savings, that's going to be what he will pay zakat on. Why the zakat anniversary is so important? Because I want you to understand and listen to this scenario very, very carefully. Let's say on the 13th of Ramadan, when is the zakat anniversary again? 15th of Ramadan. That's his zakat anniversary. That's the date that you're going to calculate your zakat. So 13th of Ramadan, the guy had $1 million. How much? So let's say throughout the whole year, all the way till the 13th, he was a millionaire. Okay? And then on the 14th of Ramadan, what happened? All his businesses crashed. All his businesses crashed, so that on the 15th of Ramadan, he was left with only $10,000. Are we going to say, well, the guy was a millionaire the whole year, so he's got to pay zakat on the million? Or do we say, the 15th of Ramadan is here, which is his zakat anniversary, and at this moment in time, he only has $10,000, so he's going to pay zakat on $10,000. Which one? The first scenario or second scenario? The second scenario. That's going to apply. Okay? Now let's take a look at the opposite. 15th of Ramadan, he had $10,000. The whole year, 10,000, 15, 10, 15, 10, 15. 14th of Ramadan, what happened? MashaAllah, barakah of Ramadan, all his businesses started booming. So he reached 1 million. Now on the 15th of Ramadan, he's got $1 million in his savings. So is he going to do A? The whole year I had 10,000. I only had 1 million for one day. So I'm going to pay on 10,000. I'm not going to pay on the million. Or is he going to do option B? It's my zakat anniversary and I've got $1 million. So even though the whole year I had only 10,000, but right now I got $1 million. So I'm going to pay zakat on $1 million. Option B is what he's going to do. He's going to pay zakat on the $1 million because on his zakat anniversary, that's what he has. Okay, so this is why the zakat anniversary is very, very important to determine and keep in mind. So some people, we like to give our zakat in Ramadan, right? Because there's more rewards, it's the month of barakah, we want to give zakat in Ramadan, that's fine. But we have to calculate the amounts based on what? The zakat anniversary, which could be Muharram, it could be Safar, it could be Rabi'ul Awwal, whatever month it is. You will calculate the zakat based on the anniversary. If you want to give it in Ramadan, no problem. You could give it in Ramadan. But the calculation must be done when? Based on the zakat anniversary, right? You could also give your zakat beforehand. So let's say a person wants to give their zakat in Ramadan, but their zakat anniversary is in Shawwal. It's in the following month, right? Or Dhul Hijjah, couple months ahead. You can give the zakat beforehand, and you will estimate and calculate based on your average earnings, right? So the person knows, hey, I make this much every month, so therefore in Shawwal, on my zakat anniversary, I'm going to have this much, X amount. So in Ramadan, you can pay the zakat earlier, but you're going to estimate based on your zakat anniversary, which is 2 months ahead. If on your zakat anniversary, you actually had more money than what you had calculated in Ramadan, then what will you do? You will just pay the excess. You will pay the balance. Does that make sense? So when somebody tells you, congratulations on your anniversary, it's not wedding anniversary. Which anniversary is it? It's your zakat anniversary. So let's take a look at this chart. He started with nisab in Ramadan, and then he dropped to 0. If in the middle of the year you drop to 0, Allah forbid, then what happens? Your zakat anniversary, it will reset based on the time that you get nisab again. So in this case, he had nisab here, he came to 0, so it's going to reset. Now only right here in Safar, he owned the nisab again. This will be his new zakat anniversary. Look here, he went over nisab, now he went below, but it didn't reach 0. See that? There's a gap. He didn't reach 0. So therefore, this would not reset his zakat anniversary. The zakat anniversary will stay at this point. And then, mashallah, the investments were coming through. He became rich in safar, right? But his zakat anniversary would be at this time. This is what I mentioned. Backtrack as best as you can for your zakat anniversary. If you cannot figure it out, you can select a date and then keep that as the zakat anniversary. Which types of wealth is zakat obligatory on? So once again, zakat is not obligatory on every single type of wealth. So for example, the guy's calculating his zakat. You don't need to go in your drawers and start counting your socks and how many shirts you have and all these kinds of things. That's not part of your zakat calculation. It's on specific types of wealth. What are those types of wealth? Number 1, cash. In hand, in the bank, any currency, money owed to you due to a loan or business investments. All of this would count as cash. Okay? If you have Bitcoin, that would also count as a currency, cryptocurrency. Number 2, gold and silver, whichever form they are in. The item must be 50% or more gold or silver. So for gold, that's 12 to 24 karat. Gold and silver plated items, they're not actually made of gold and silver, they're just plated. That will not be zakatable. So what you will do is, you will weigh the item, you will find the price for gold and silver per gram, and then you're going to multiply it. So however many grams of gold, you will check how much it is, and that's how much you'll pay 2.5% on the value of that. Let's say it's a ring, for example. The ring has, it's made of gold, and it has a diamond on it as well. So when you're going to take this to the jeweler, you're going to check how many grams it is, they're going to weigh it for you and check. You will deduct the weight of the diamond, because diamonds are not zakatable, only gold and silver. So you'll deduct the weight of the diamond, and only on the grams of the gold, that's what you will pay zakat on. And this will take place every year, right? So you will not say, oh, the lady, she has a necklace of gold or a bracelet or ring, whatever it is, and she pays zakat on it, and then the following year comes, and she says, oh, I paid zakat on this last year, so I'm not going to do it this year. No, every year the zakat will have to be paid on jewelry, gold and silver. Now, money that's owed to you. Somebody owes you money. Do you calculate zakat on that? So there's 3 types of debt that could be owed to you. Strong, medium, and weak. The strong debt, zakatable assets which have been given on a loan. So for example, you gave somebody cash, you gave somebody gold, you gave somebody silver, and now they owe you. Similarly, merchandise, yani business merchandise, something that was specifically for the purpose of sale. It's a store, for example. The business merchandise was sold, the person owes money to pay for it. That's considered merchandise. The outstanding payment, that's strong debt. As the individual is considered to own this wealth, zakat will be obligatory upon it immediately, though it does not have to be paid until the money is received. So for example, let's say a person gives a loan, $5,000, right? This is a cash loan, so zakatable asset has been given, right? Which is cash, $5,000. And the person owes you, so this year, I'm going to calculate that $5,000 and I'm going to pay zakat on it. If I want, I can also wait until the person actually pays me and then pay the zakat on it. But let's say, for example, the person paid me 3 years later. Once I receive the money, I would pay zakat on it, not only for this year, but also the previous years when that debt was still owed. So to avoid, getting through all these numbers and all these things, the easiest way is to do what? If you have the money, just calculate it every year. So that way, you're not left with math homework. Medium debt. Money which is owed from the sale of a non-zakatable property. So for example, your personal car, your house, your laptop, these are things which are non-zakatable. They're not for the sake of business. It's your personal property, you sold it, and somebody owes you. This is the same as strong debt. It's better that you should pay the zakat on it as well. Now, weak debt, any other type of wealth which is owed to you. So for example, outstanding wages. So you worked for a company, they owe you money for the work that you did. That money that they owe you is not zakatable because you didn't give them a loan, you didn't give them cash. What did you give them? You gave them your service. Service is not zakatable. So that's a weak debt. Rental income that's owed to you. Mahar which is due to be received. Inheritance which is still owed to you. Zakat is only necessary once it's received, and it's not necessary for the previous years. And similarly, loan which one is certain they will never receive back. So if you gave someone a loan and you're 100% sure you ain't getting that money back, right? Brother, $10,000, hello? What 10,000? What are you talking about? That's my money, right? If you're in that type of situation, there's no zakat on that because unfortunately you're probably not going to see that money. Sorry. This chart is just mentioning backdating. So let's say a person did not pay the zakat for several years. How do you backtrack and calculate it? So for example, year 1, you were supposed to pay zakat on 1,000. Okay, so you can see there. For year 1, 2.5% of 1,000 is what? $25. Okay. Year 2, you also owed 1,000. Zakat for year 2 is now going to be 2.5% of what? Not 1,000. 975. We're going to deduct the 25 from the first year. Right? And then year 3, another 1,000 is owed. You have to give zakat on the other 1,000 for year 3. So it's going to be 2.5%, not of 1,000. Now it's going to be 2.5% of 950. Because why? We deducted the 25 for year 2 and for year 1. If you don't like this math and you just want to go for the full 1,000, Bismillah, that's also okay. Zakat on merchandise. What is merchandise? Now we're talking about business. Okay? So when we say merchandise, according to Shari'i terminology, business merchandise is something very specific. Right? What is business merchandise? In order for an item to be considered zakatable, intention must be made at the time of purchase that the item is to be sold and not for personal use. So for example, I'm on eBay, Craigslist, and I'm looking for a laptop which I'm purchasing with the intention of resale. That's my niyyah, to sell it. That is now considered what? Merchandise. It's a business asset. It has now become zakatable. We covered, right? What is zakatable? Cash, gold, silver, those things. Now you might say, but a car? That wasn't in the list. It would be business merchandise. When? If it's purchased with the intention of selling it. If an item was purchased for personal use, but then put up for sale, it will not be zakatable. Why? Hubaysh, why? Musa?
Because he has the question.
The question is, if an item was purchased for personal use, but then it was put up for sale, it's not going to be zakatable. Why?
Because it's already been used.
But what if I buy a used laptop with the intention for resale? It's been used. It depends on your intention when you bought it. So when I bought it, my intention was personal use. Later on, my niyyah was, oh, I'm getting tired of this one. I'm going to get a new one. Let me sell this. You made intention later. That's not considered business merchandise. In order to qualify as business merchandise, when must the intention be made? When you purchase the item. Okay? So if an item, number two, if an item was purchased for personal use with the condition that if a good offer is received, then it will be sold. Still, it's not zakatable. So you buy a car, man, I like this car, it looks nice. I'm going to drive around in this maybe, yeah. But if I get a good offer, maybe I'll sell it. So your intention is double, right? It's for personal use, and maybe if I get a good offer, then I'll sell it. That's not business merchandise. Business merchandise, you have to purchase it with the clear intention of what? This is for resale. I'm making money out of this. This is for business. Number three, if an item was purchased with the intention of selling. So he bought the laptop with the intention of reselling. But then what happened? He kept it for personal use. Man, this laptop is nice. The games are really fast on here. All the gamers, right? Well, everything's really fast. I like this laptop. It's so clear. Now he's using it for his personal use. Then what happens? It will no longer be zakatable. Even if he changes his mind and puts it up for sale later. Once you've made the intention for personal use, you've disqualified it from being what? Business merchandise. Lastly, items purchased for sale but rented out in the interim. The item is zakatable and the rent received is also zakatable once you receive it. Does that make sense? So an example of this would be a person buys a house with the intention of resale. Now they have the house, and in the meantime, they're like, well, while I'm waiting for people to buy it, let me just go ahead and put it for rent. And somebody's living there, and he's getting the rent money from it. So now there's two aspects here. One is, he must pay zakat on the house. Why? Why should he pay zakat on the house? Nuh. Because he had intention of resale, so it's a business asset. So, zakat on the house, and on top of that, the income, once he receives it, that's his money now. That's cash. You have to add it to your total, and that will also be zakatable. Zakat is due on the value of the stock. So if person has a business, he has a cell phone store, he's got a bunch of phones, cases, all these kinds of things. On the value of the stock, you will use the selling price or the market value of the product, not the purchase price. You're not looking how much you bought it, you're looking at the selling price or the market value. You will value retail and wholesale according to how the items are to be sold, however you're selling them. Dead stock which no longer has value would not be zakatable at that moment because it has no value. Zakat is necessary on goods that are manufactured, or in the form of raw material. Example, ingredients, packaging, etc. Any item which will be included in the final product and sold, it is going to be zakatable. So, for example, let's say a person sells cell phones, and with the cell phones they also sell the box that goes with it. Okay? Let's say a person sells cakes, so they have dough, they have sugar, they have all these different things, the raw material. All of that is going to be zakatable because in the final product it goes to the customer. So therefore it's considered zakatable. There is no zakat on the property or fixtures and fittings of the business. What does this mean? This means the things that you're using to run the business. So the building, the machinery, the equipment, all of those things that are used to run your business, there's no zakat on that. Just on the actual stock, the things that are going to go to the customers. Case study. Which assets are zakatable? Meats. Who says it's zakatable? If it's zakatable, I want you to raise your hand. So meat could be zakatable if the guy has a butchery maybe, and he's selling meat as a business. But if it's not as a business, you're not going to go to your freezer and calculate all those pounds of beef and say, I got to pay zakat on this. Okay, so meat is not zakatable generally. Vegetables, not zakatable. Salt. Oh, but salt and flour, these are stored, right? Is there zakat on salt and flour? Now we're talking general. So the salt and flour that's in your cupboard, there's no zakat on that. Yeah, if the person has a business, restaurant, or a bakery or something like that, and they use that salt and flour for their business, that salt and flour is zakatable because it's for business. But the zakat and flour which is in your cupboard, that's not zakatable. How about chairs? What if a guy has a restaurant? You don't feed the customers the chairs, right? They just sit on them. You're only gonna pay zakat on what you're giving to the customers. Same, cutlery, sugar, building, cash. Cash. Yes. Delivery car. Pizza Hut. Who says zakat? Who says no zakat? No zakat. Because you're not giving the delivery car to the customer, you're giving the pizza. If Pizza Hut gives me a delivery car, let me order pizza right now. Those are used for the operation of the business. Remember, the fixtures, the fittings, the buildings, the machinery, equipment, there's no zakat on that. Only the actual product that's going to go to customers, there's zakat on that. So what's related to the pizza, the actual pizza, the box, the things that the customer will receive, that is zakatable. Cash machine that counts the money for you. Food packaging. Yeah, because it goes to the customer. They get the box, they get the wrapper for the burger, right? Tables and tablecloth. No. Decorations. No. Drinks. If it's a business, yes. Kitchen utensils, no. Money owed. Yeah, so if somebody owes you money, remember there's 3 types of debt. So if the money is owed to you because you gave someone a cash loan, you'll calculate that in the zakat. Loans to be paid. No. Okay, this is a little more in depth. Deductibles. So what do you subtract from your zakat calculation? One is short-term debt, which is already owed. That will be deductible from your zakatable assets. So for example, I calculated that I owe zakat on $10,000. But I owe rent for this month, I already owe it $3,000. So then what will I do? I will subtract 3,000 from the 10,000. And my zakat will be on 7,000. Okay? So short-term debt, this is what you already owe. It's already in your responsibility to pay. Bills which are already due are deductible, not future bills. So what you owe right now, not what you owe for the future. Now what about long-term debts? Mortgage on the house, car payments, several years, you have this debt, thousands of dollars. Now if you deduct the whole thing, you're going to end up not paying zakat for years. Right? So zakat on long-term debts you will deduct 1 year's payment. 1 Islamic lunar year, you will deduct 1 year's payment only. Above and beyond that, you will not deduct. So long-term debts that are to be paid off in installments, such as mortgage payments, car payments, the amount due for the coming year may be deducted, but not the entire loan. Non-deductible. You cannot subtract these. Future expenses and bills, interest, income gained from unlawful means like alcohol, lottery, etc. Such wealth must be given in charity without intending any reward. So you're basically getting rid of the wealth. You can't make intention of thawab because you cannot attain thawab and reward through that which is impure. Now, shares and pensions, stocks. Zakat on shares or stocks, it's based again on the intention of your purchase. What was your intention when you bought it? If they have been bought to sell, then zakat will be due on the market value of the entire share that you own, all of it. Because now it's a business asset. And we learned in business assets, you will pay on the entire thing. If one has purchased the shares not to sell, but with which intention? As a long-term investment and not to sell them. Rather, to take benefits from the dividends, then they will pay zakat on the dividends, meaning the money that they're receiving from the stock, from the share. They'll pay zakat on that and on the portion of the business that is zakatable. So you will not pay zakat on the entire portion of the business, just on that portion of your share which is zakatable. So what does that mean? Take a look here. The company, total assets, 100%. 80% is non-zakatable. What does that mean? 80% of that stock is buildings, machinery, equipment used for the business. And 20% is the zakatable part, which actually goes to the customers. Right? So therefore, this 20% of the stock or share that you own, that's the amount that you will pay zakat on. Okay? So 2.5%, let's say 20%, the zakatable assets equals $200, right? The full share is 1,000, so 20%, which is zakatable, is 200. 2.5% of that 200 is $5. That is what you will pay in zakat. Once again, stocks and shares. If you purchased it to resell, then what are you going to pay zakat on? The full amount of your share, because the full thing is for resale. But if you purchased it to benefit from the dividends, from the monthly income that's coming from those shares or from those stocks, then you're going to pay zakat on two things. Number one, the money that you receive from the stock, the actual dividends. And number two, you will pay zakat on the zakatable parts of the company, of your share. Only the zakatable. And how are you going to find this out? You got to do your research.
That's a very good question.
Yeah, you got to contact wherever you've invested, figure it out. And again, the usul and principles, precaution. So if you're in doubt, should I pay 70% or 30%? Just pay the 70% if you're not sure. Right. Pensions. Now, siblings of ilm, I believe they're from the UK, so these kinds of pensions are more common there. But over here we deal with the 401k. So I'm just going to cover the 401k, inshallah. First and foremost, with 401k, you have to make sure that your employer is investing in halal companies, in a halal way. So for that, you got to reach out to your company, reach out to those in charge, HR, I don't know, whatever research you got to do. Find a way to make sure the investments are only done in what? Sharia compliant stocks, right? Where the business is dealing in halal products, halal things, which is suitable for a Muslim to engage in. If we're not aware of those things, sometimes what does the employer do? They'll invest in insurance, banks, other immoral things that are out there, alcohol companies, etc. That's not suitable for our money to be invested in that. So you have to make sure they're investing the 401k in the proper avenues. Now, when it comes to 401k, there's two parts of the 401k. One is what the employer puts in, and one is what goes in from the employee's side, from their salary. Okay? So what goes in from the worker, from the employee, all of that is zakatable. 100% of it. What goes in from the employer, that amount which is vested, this is the terminology that they use, it's vested, that amount you have to pay zakat on because it's considered yours. But that amount which has not vested, it's not considered yours yet, so you do not have to pay zakat on that. So once again, 401k, firstly make sure it's halal. Secondly, there's two parts of it. One is from the worker, from the employee, all of that is zakatable. What comes in from the employer, only that amount which is vested, that amount is zakatable. And you should pay on the whole thing every year, you should pay zakat on it. If a person doesn't have the money right now to pay zakat on the 401k, you could wait until you're paid the 401k, but then you would have to backtrack. You would have to have a big math equation to cover all the previous years of what you didn't pay for the zakat on the 401k. Okay? So once again, 401k, it is zakatable, it's considered yours. You also cannot deduct any tax or penalty fees for early, what do you call it when you take it out? Early withdrawal. They'll sometimes charge you tax, they'll sometimes charge you a penalty fee if you take it out early. You're not allowed to deduct that from your zakat. The full amount of your 401k, you must pay zakat on it. Conclusion. Now this is the wrap up, how you're gonna calculate zakat. Add your gold, silver, and cash. Add your business merchandise. Add your shares and pensions. Add the loans that other people owe you. Subtract the debts that you owe. Apply 2.5% to the total. So you take all cash, gold, silver, currencies, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all of that, your business merchandise, your stocks, what you're owed by others, calculate all of that in one chunk. Then you have what you owe. We covered that aspect as well. You're only going to subtract what you currently owe right now, not what you're going to owe in the future. Subtract that amount. The result of what you get, 2.5% of that is your zakat. Now the recipients of zakat, in a nutshell, we'll just keep it simple. Those who are poor and needy, and they do not have the nisab. That's who you give your zakat to. Okay, and you can judge this based off of your research, asking around, seeing with your eye the condition of a person. You can get an idea if a person is a valid recipient. So types of assets, once again, zakatable, gold, silver, cash, trading goods. What is not zakatable? Your necessary assets and beyond necessary assets. What does that mean? So necessary assets, the clothes which a person is using, household goods, utensils, furniture, assets that are used for work, your car, shelter, debt which you owe, phone, laptop. These are things that they're considered your needs. you're not going to pay zakat on these things. These are excluded from your zakat because these are your initial hawa'ij asliya. These are the things that you need. Now you also have what's called non-zakatable assets. What is non-zakatable assets? That which is minus your essentials. So for example, you have one car, maybe you even have two cars, no problem. But you use both of them. One is to get back and forth from work, the other one is if you're going a little bit far, no problem. But now you have a third car that's just sitting there. You don't even use it and you don't need it. It's not part of your needs. This is what we call non-zakatable asset. You do not have to pay zakat on it, but it will be calculated to prevent a person from receiving zakat. Does that make sense? So listen carefully. One nisab that we did was the nisab of having to give zakat. طيب? The nisab that makes you liable to give. And one is the nisab that prevents you from receiving. So to give zakat, you only calculate what? Specific types of wealth that we covered. Cash, gold, silver, business merchandise, stocks, those things. But when you're calculating the the nisab that would prevent a person from receiving, prevent them from being a valid recipient, we don't only look at zakatable. We look at everything of their wealth which is above and beyond their needs. So let's say a person has a house they're living in, but they have a second house which is above and beyond their needs and necessities. The value of that house, they don't have to pay zakat on it, but the value of that house will be used against them to prevent them from receiving zakat. So for example, a person has one house that they're living in and they have an extra house just sitting on the side which is not in use. Do they have to pay zakat on that house? They don't have to pay zakat on it. It's not zakatable to pay. But the value of that house will be calculated against the person to prevent him from receiving. So let's say the house is $600,000. Is that above nisab? That's above nisab. So that person is not a valid recipient of zakat. Let's say there's a person who has a closet full of extra clothes that they never wear. It's just extra sitting there above and beyond their needs. They don't actually wear them. Is that zakatable? Do they have to pay zakat on it? No. But the value of those clothes, we will calculate it and see if it reaches nisab together with the other extra assets and money that the guy has. If it reaches nisab, he's not allowed to receive zakat. But does he have to give? We're not going to calculate that to make him give, but we're going to calculate that to prevent him from receiving. Okay, so these are the two nisabs. Let's take a look at this nice chart here. So blue is zakatable goods, money, cash, gold, silver. And the green, non-zakatable assets, which are above and beyond the person's necessities. Spare car, spare house, closet full of extra clothes, those things, okay? So let's say both are above nisab. So obviously he's got to pay zakat. And he's not going to accept zakat. If you're paying zakat, you're not going to accept zakat. طيب? Look at the second. His blue, the zakatable assets, it's below nisab. So his gold, silver, cash, extra, above and beyond his needs, his savings, $3,000. Is that equal to nisab or below? So does he have to give zakat? No. So don't pay zakat. However, non-zakatable assets, look at how high it is. He's got a whole warehouse full of clothes, cars, all these extra goods. And the value of that equals 15,000. Above nisab. Can he accept zakat? He cannot accept zakat. So he's not liable to give, but he's also not liable to not allowed to receive in this case as well. And the last case, both are below nisab. So he doesn't own much to make it reach nisab, whether it's zakatable or non-zakatable. In this case, he does not have to pay zakat, of course, because the blue is below nisab. But in this case, he can receive. Why? Because the green is below the nisab. Does that make sense? Any questions anyone has so far? We still have another hour and a half, so I hope nobody's tired. The party's just getting started. This is important, ownership. For zakat to be valid, it is necessary that the individual who receives the zakat gains total ownership and is free to do as they like with that wealth. So let's say a person is sick and they've got a hospital bill and they're poor and they're needy. So you say, hey, I got $2,000 of zakat. Let me go to this poor person. Hey, I heard you're sick and you got a hospital bill to pay. Who's your doctor? Let me give him the money and pay the bill for you. So he goes and he gives the money to the hospital. Is his zakat discharged? No, because he did not give it to the poor person and give him freedom to do what he wants with it. Yes, if he instructs him to give it, or another situation where there's an agreement made, that can be a different scenario. Can zakat be given to a masjid, madrasa, or orphanage? It depends. Yes and no. So if the masjid is going to take the zakat and give it to the poor people, you can give it. If the orphanage, they're going to take the zakat money and they're going to use it on the children who are eligible for zakat, that's fine. But if you're giving it, for example, for the construction of a masjid, for the construction of the orphanage, that's not allowed. Because it's not being given to who? In the hands of a poor person who is eligible to receive zakat. Can zakat be used to fulfill the debts of a deceased person or for their burial? No. Can zakat be given to dig a well? No. Because you're not giving the money to an individual, to a poor person. Your money is being used for the construction and for the digging. And lastly, can zakat be given to a hospital for the construction of the hospital or for equipment of the hospital, etc.? It cannot be given for that because it's not being given directly to a poor person to allow them freedom to use it how they want. Zakat cannot be given to one's child, grandchild, great-grandchild, and so on going down. So your progeny, you can't give them zakat. Your parents, grandparents, great-grandparents going up, your ancestors, you cannot give. So going up, going down, you cannot give zakat. Neither can you give to the spouse, be it one's wife or husband. See, people think of all the tricks. People think of all the good tricks. Wedding anniversary, zakat anniversary combined. Banu Hashim. So this is important. People who are Sayyid, authentic Sayyid. Descendants of Ali, Abbas, Ja'far, Aqil, Hadith ibn Abdul Muttalib, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. They are not liable to accept zakat. So if there's a true Sayyid who is needy, that person will be helped with optional charity. They will not be given zakat. Okay, and this is from several hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. A person who does not have the nisab of zakat, of giving zakat, but has goods beyond their essential needs which reach the value of nisab, they cannot be given zakat. We did this in the that chart with the blue and the green. Alright, now just a few important aspects of zakat, common questions and common scenarios that people go through, and then inshallah we'll conclude. If an object contains a mixture of metals, including gold or silver, and the gold or silver is more than the other metals, the entire object will be regarded as gold or silver. And zakat will be fard. If the other metals are greater, then zakat will not be fard. So therefore, 12 karat gold will be zakatable. Anything 12 karat and above, it's going to be zakatable because that's 50% or more. And you're going to calculate it on how much? Not 50% of the gold, the entire gold. The whole thing is treated as gold, so you will calculate the grams and give zakat on the total. Plated items, not zakatable, we covered that. Platinum, not zakatable because it's not gold or silver. Diamonds, not zakatable. Even though in many cases it might be more expensive than gold or silver, but it's still not zakatable. Zakat should be distributed as soon as possible, at the very latest, within 1 lunar year of the calculation date. Zakat needs to be paid on jewelry every year. It is not the case that if one has paid it once, then they don't need to pay for it again. One will continue to pay for it as long as it remains in one's possession. Further clarifications. If a person has a few houses, but with no intention to sell, there is no zakat on the second, third, fourth, fifth home. Why? It's not zakatable. When would it be zakatable? Either he's receiving rent, the rent money will be zakatable, or what's the second scenario? Let's say he sells it and he gets the money will be zakatable, he's going to add it. And the third case, if he purchased it with the intention to resell, that's considered zakatable now because it's a business merchandise. If someone is receiving rental income from the second home, there will be zakat on the rental income, but not the property itself. Now, a few questions. I have kept some money aside to fulfill my duty of Hajj. Do I need to pay zakat on this money? Yes, zakat needs to be given. Even though you've reserved it for what? For Hajj. I have kept some money aside for my children's weddings. Do I need to pay zakat on this money? Yes, zakat needs to be given. It's not considered your kids yet. Let's say you have kept some money for an emergency. I'm going to give this to my children later on. But the money is in your account. Is that zakatable? Yes. It is zakatable because you haven't actually given it to them yet. Can zakat be paid in advance? I explained that already. I have some interest money in my account. Do I need to pay zakat on the interest? What do you guys say? No, interest is not zakatable. What's the ruling for interest? You give it in charity without the intention of rewards. Because through impure wealth, through something that's impure, you cannot intend goodness from Allah through something which is impure. Is there zakat on diamonds, which are for my personal use? No. What if you're a diamond dealer? Yeah, because you're buying it with the intention of resale. Any diamond dealers here? Ramadan is coming, fundraisers are coming. Any diamond dealers are here? You can submit your email, inshallah. Is intention necessary for the fulfillment of zakah? This is an important one. You must have intention of zakat either while you're giving the money or while you've separated the money. You cannot give the money and then later on you're like, hey, I didn't calculate my zakat. Let me just count that as zakat. You can't do your intention after. The intention must be when? Before you're giving. Either when it's in your hand and you're giving, or when you're separating the money and you're counting. This money is going to be for zakat. You have to make the intention beforehand. Right? So you cannot empty-minded give a random charity and then later on say, oh, I think I would count that as my zakat. No. It has to be done. The niyyah and intention must be before. Does a person have to tell a recipient of zakat that this is zakat money?
Yes.
No. You don't have to tell them. So sometimes a person might feel bad. right? That they're in a situation that they need zakat. And they feel it against their nobility and honor to accept zakat money. So you don't need to tell them, hey, this is zakat, please take it. You can tell them, hey brother, I love you for the sake of Allah. Here's a gift, man. I love you so much for the sake of Allah. Take this gift. The person feels happy. They don't feel kind of looked down upon that they're taking zakat. So you don't need to tell them that it is zakat. My husband gave me jewelry on my marriage. Who is liable for zakat? Me or my husband? Nice try, sister. As you, the wife, are the owner, you are the one who's liable. Nice try. If zakat is being given for multiple outstanding years, items will be evaluated at their current market value. Zakat is not necessary on gift vouchers. Any questions anyone has? Bismillah, we can take a few questions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the person has like own 50,000, but he save money like for 3-4 years. He have like 30,000, so he has to give zakat from that 30,000, but because he save it to pay the loan, 50,000.
So if it's a long-term loan, like for mortgage, then in that case, you can only deduct 1 year's payment, not the full amount. If it's long-term.
If it's not a loan, it's just
Immediate.
Yeah.
So if it's an immediate payment that's due, you would subtract it. So let's say, for example, I have $50,000 extra above and beyond my necessities, so it's part of my savings, 50,000. But now I owe 40,000 right now, at this moment. It's not a long-term debt. It's not a mortgage or a car payment that's extended for many years. No, I owe it right now. Then in that case, you will deduct the 40,000 and 10,000 remains. So the zakat will be due on 10,000 for that year. That's how it's going to work. Any other questions? Yes.
So when you mentioned owning a property and getting a rent, but what if you're renting somewhere else and you use the same rent and then paying the rent, is it still zakatable?
If a person rents a house, but they own another house, which they're giving for rent. So in that case, the rental money which is received, you will add that, the person would add that to their total assets. And then at the end of the zakat anniversary, they're going to include the rental income in their total assets. And you would calculate zakat on it, on the rental income which you receive, but not on the property itself. Just the rent which the tenants are given. We had one question there.
What about siblings? Can we give zakat to siblings?
Good question. You could give zakat to your siblings. So, up and down, you cannot give zakat. So parents and up, children and down, you cannot give zakat. Left and right, siblings, brother to sister, sister to brother, you can give. And diagonal you can give. So aunts and uncles, diagonal up, diagonal down as well. Who's diagonal down? Nephews and nieces. I like that you guys understand my terminologies. Yes, what's the question here? Yes.
So if you have, let's say, money in a portfolio, right, and the money keeps increasing in a sense, or if it goes down, right, but it just stays in that account for years. You buy an investment, right, with the intention to sell it, but it takes time for it to, let's say, meet a price for you to sell it. That just stays in the portfolio. Do you give, like, it's not in your bank account. Do you have to pay zakat?
So if you purchased it with the intention of resale.
Yeah, but I haven't sold it.
Okay, so if it was purchased with the intention of resale, a portfolio or a share or any business investment, if it was purchased with the intention of resale, you would calculate zakat on it yearly. Yeah. Yes. Cousins, you could give zakat to cousins. Yes. Mahbub is smiling. Yeah.
What if you're given something
if you're given something to sell. So you explain more. Is that like you are selling on behalf of the person? If they give you permission to benefit from it, you can. But it's based on the agreement between you and the person who's entrusted you. Under what conditions they're allowing you to make that sale and how you're allowed to utilize it. That would be based on your mutual understanding between both parties. Any other questions? Yes.
I've been told like in the past that you shouldn't give money to like homeless people on the street without them. Like you can give like zakat because clearly they're poor, they're sleeping outside, but you don't know what they're going to use the money for. What's your stance on that?
So, firstly, zakat must be given to Muslims. So you cannot give zakat to non-Muslims. So therefore, if there's a homeless person and they're not Muslim, you cannot give them zakat. But you can give them charity, which is separate from your zakat. And with regards to that, you're afraid they might misuse the money, right? In that case, I would recommend buying some food with that money, giving them the food, right? If you have, reasonable belief and reasonable assumption that they're going to misuse it, they're struggling with maybe drug addiction or alcohol or something, give them some food, buy some food and give it to them. Halal food. No McDonald's. Yes.
So what about people who need medical assistance, like for changes and things like that, that's allowed for?
So people who need money for medical emergencies like surgery, we're going to follow the same rulings. So if, let's say, the hospital has given them the bill and they owe $20,000 right away, they're in debt right away, $20,000. And let's say they own $10,000. So they own $10,000, but they owe $20,000. So obviously they're below the threshold. They're below nisab. You can give them zakat because they're in debt, right? However, let's say the hospital bill is $20,000, but they own $50,000. So now if you subtract the $20,000 from the $50,000, they still have $30,000, which is above the nisab. So in that case, they would not be able to accept zakat. And similarly, if the bill has not even been given to them yet, you cannot consider them to be in debt through that hospital bill. So if they're already poor and below nisab, you can give them zakat. But if at the moment they have not been charged anything and they're above the nisab threshold, then they would not be liable to give zakat to. In that case, you can help them with optional nafil or sadaqah to help them.
What about if they need to travel somewhere to a house that one?
If they need money for travel, again, we would look at whether they're above or below the nisab. For the treatment, if they need money, if they're in debt, right, they had to take a loan to pay for the travel, and when you subtract everything, they're below nisab, then you could give them because they're below nisab. But if they have not yet purchased the ticket, right, and you want to buy the ticket for them, that wouldn't be allowed to give zakat for that purpose. Unless they're already below nisab and you just give them the money, use it how you wish. You can use it for your treatment, you can use it for your ticket, whatever. Yeah. Yes?
If you have like long-term investments in stocks that you're planning to sell maybe in a few years, eventually you do have an intention to sell, but not in the short term.
So this would not be a business asset because right now you're using it to benefit from the dividends. Your intention for resale is in the future. So this would be in the category of where zakat would be paid on two things. One, the income and dividends received, and similarly, whatever percentage of zakatable assets are in your share, you would pay for that only. Yeah. Okay, inshallah, I think that's... Any online questions or anything?
There's someone yours.
Okay.
You want to see that one? This
may be redundant. If someone, has a house on mortgage, right? It's
Mhm.
30 years long.
Yes.
You said, that they have to pay from the value of the house or when the house is paid off because they're still paying towards the house. How would they determine like
So if a person is paying off a house, their own house,
their own house is on mortgage 20 or maybe you said 20 years long?
okay?
Do they have to pay from the amount that's going to be owed now or for 20 years? Because the house is not paid off yet.
Yeah, they're basically gonna look at in the upcoming lunar Islamic year how much money they're gonna have to pay out of pocket. Yeah, how much money they're gonna have to owe from their own pocket, that amount would be deducted. Yeah. I think there are some questions online. Let's just take a look.
Someone asked, can we combine husband and wife zakat?
So one question on 401k. If I were to take out my 401k today, I have to pay plenty and also I would have to pay tax. My ownership would be after subtracting these amounts. So the issue there is that amount that you would have to pay is a future debt which would be incurred. At this moment in time, before a person takes out their money from the 401k, there is no tax nor is there any penalty. So you're not allowed to subtract that from your yearly calculation of the zakat. The total amount which is in the 401k, that's considered your money. And at this moment in time, there's no penalty or tax which is on you because you haven't taken it out. So therefore, the total amount of the 401k yearly, you have to pay zakat on it. If someone owns a house and lives in that house, but they don't have the nisab amount to give zakat, are they zakat recipient eligible? So yes, they could be if what we covered here, the non-zakatable assets, which are minus their essentials, if this is below the red line, below the nisab, they can still accept zakat. So living in a house, that's part of your essentials. So just because a person owns a house, it doesn't mean that they are automatically that they cannot accept zakat. There could be cases where they live in their own house, they're residing in it, but if they don't have assets, even non-zakatable, which are above and minus their essentials, it's still possible that they could receive zakat in that case. And that's it. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept.
Husband and wife can combine their zakat.
Can a husband and wife combine their zakat? No, the husband and wife should calculate their zakat separately because zakat is an obligation on an individual. So individually, the husband should calculate his own assets and the wife should calculate her own assets. If they want to thereafter, let's say the husband's zakat is 1,000, the wife's zakat is 1,000, and they want to put it together and give it to a valid recipient, they can do that. But the calculations should be done individually. Yes?
Zakat's part on someone who's sick. Like let's say someone is sick and they're really rich, and they have like healthy individuals around them, but they don't have like let's say the mental capacity to give it. How does that work?
If a person has the nisab and they're rich and wealthy, but they're sick, if the wealth is above and beyond their needs, and what remains is above nisab, they would still have to give. But if they're sick in the sense of like mentally incapable, they would not have to give, because one of the conditions for giving zakat, being liable to give, is that you should be sane. So if the person is not mentally capable, the zakat would not be an obligation upon them.
So if the wife has jewelry, but she doesn't have cash to give out in zakat, what should she do? Should she go to the husband, or?
If the wife has jewelry, but she doesn't have cash, so how should she give zakat in that case? Either through the jewelry itself, if it's reaching nisab of course, either through the jewelry itself, or the husband can give her some money and then she can pay the cash in her zakat. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار يا أرحم الراحمين يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. Ya Allah, please accept this workshop from us, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Ya Allah, in the blessed month of Ramadan, Ya Allah, allow us to spend, Ya Allah, happily and freely, Ya Allah, for your pleasure. Ya Allah, accept all of our sadaqat and our zakat. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, we ask that you assist all of our brothers and sisters who are going through difficult financial times. Ya Allah, all our brothers and sisters who are going through poverty, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, you assist them and you aid them. Ya Allah, allow us to be successful through the tribulation of wealth, Ya Allah. Allow us to be successful, Ya Allah. Our brothers and sisters who are going through the tribulation of poverty, Ya Allah, in both aspects, Ya Allah, allow the ummah to be successful, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Ya Allah, remove from us the qualities of selfishness, Ya Allah. Remove from us, Ya Allah, the qualities of greed and always wanting things from people, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, instill within us the quality of serving, Ya Allah, the quality of being an aid and an assistant and a well-wisher for all of those around us, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Ya Allah, we ask that through this blessed month of Ramadan, you purify our wealth, Ya Allah, you purify our financial conditions. Ya Allah, make this blessed month of Ramadan a means of us becoming closer to you, Ya Allah, through our ibadah, through our Quran, through our prayers, through our charities, our zakat and our sadaqat. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, please multiply our wealth, Ya Allah, in this dunya and in the next through our charities, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Ya Rabbal Alameen, ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله خيرا everyone. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.